here's my full Lyft Express Drive review. Being more specific, should you rent a car if you want to drive for Lyft? Now, I am on my Lyft dashboard right now, and as you can see, rent with Express Drive, get unlimited Lyft miles, standard maintenance, insurance, and roadside assistance, starting at $189 a week plus taxes, plus a refundable deposit. Now, this is different depending on who you are. There's a lot of different factors that determine how much money you're gonna personally have to spend for Lyft when it comes to Express Drive. I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. There's a lot to unpack on this video. Going to this Medium article though, this is by Joe Wolf. This was written, as you can see, in June of 2019. I'm gonna go down here. It really goes in depth all about the good and the bad. But this is the big thing I really wanna point out is if I go down here, his rental costs were roughly $240 a week, and at least 20 rides must be given in order to be eligible for the renewal the following week. So if you didn't drive enough and you want to rent a car when he did Express Drive, well, that's kind of tricky. It gives you like a very, big benchmark where you're like, all right, I have to do this amount of drives or else that Lyft rental goes away. Going down here now, and this is a big point I want to bring up, is currently 85 rides a week nets you a $75 reduction. 110 rides a week is a $120 deduction, and 135 a week is $200 of a deduction. Meaning, if you can manage giving 135 rides or more over the course of 7 days, so it's roughly 19 rides a day, you'll only pay $40 for that car rental. When it comes to the Lyft Express Drive, especially compared to renting a car through Uber, it's pretty awesome that the more rides you do, the less money you're gonna spend on that rental overall. So it's kind of motivating, right? You do more rides, you make more money, and you spend less money overall on that rental. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack on this video. Like I said, there's 5 huge points I have to bring up about renting a car through Lyft. And this is incredibly imperative if you're planning to do so. A couple things I will say though, before I get into that, about the Lyft Express Drive. One, you may be wondering, okay, let's say 135 rides a week, how many hours, like how long does that take? Overall, my best budget for people, expect to do anywhere between 1 and 3 rides an hour. So to average it, you're looking at about 2 rides an hour. So let's say, to make numbers super easy, if Lyft says, hey, you can do 120 rides in a week and you only have to spend this much money on that rental, you're really looking at about 60 hours a week or more than full time for a typical 9-to-5 job. The second thing, and this is a big one, Lyft is always changing their terms when it comes to Express Drive. Now, this was written, like I showed you, in 2019. However, I remember Lyft said if you do 63 rides in a week, you can have a rental for free. So if you think about it, to only do 63 rides in a week, you're looking at, like I said, 30 to 32 hours maybe to hit that mark. Well, all that money you make is pretty much profit, and you don't even have to spend any money on that rental. Now, of course, that has changed. It's almost doubled to not even get the car for free. You have to pay money for it. So the rental terms are still changing, but Lyft Express Drive is a great program. As you can imagine, if you do more rides, then you get to spend less, or you have to spend less on that vehicle. But here are 5 really important things to keep in mind when renting a car through Lyft. Number 1, Rideshare Insurance. I'm gonna be pretty quick on this. Just get it. Contact your auto insurance and say, hey, I'm planning on driving for Uber and Lyft, or basically I'm gonna be a rideshare driver. I just wanna let you know what's gonna happen with my insurance. Just do it. Yes, they do say, oh, we cover you, or there's some insurance included with the rental. Even still, just get rideshare insurance. It's gonna save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. Number 2, test the waters. This is a big one, and I've said this before in a lot of other videos. You're way better off starting off driving part-time, and then if you like it, you're making good money, then transition to full-time. The reason why is depending on your location, when you can drive, how you can drive, there's a lot of factors. You might make a lot of money, or you might not. Now, when it comes to renting, especially with Lyft Express Drive, as you can imagine, is, well, if you do more rides, you don't have to spend as much on the rental. However, it would be horrible if, let's say, you start driving part-time, and you're like, wow, I'm not making that much money. I can only drive during, like, say, non-peak hours. You know what? I'm not making that much. Maybe this is not worth it. So I suggest, if you're going to do so, Start maybe doing it part-time during 1 week. Just test it out. Try to drive if you can during the peak hours, so morning and evening commutes, Friday and Saturday nights. Just feel it out. You might love it and make a lot of money. You might not like it at all and not make that much money, right? So that's a big thing to keep in mind, is to always test it out as much as you can in the beginning. Now, if you have your own vehicle, I would actually suggest driving with your own car first, just to feel it out. And then if you're like, all right, I do want to rent, which I'll get into a little bit later in this video in terms of having your own vehicle versus renting, then you can maybe transition into renting if you want to do so. Now, if you don't have a car, you're going to have to rent no matter what. But I always suggest, don't go into it all in. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when it comes to Uber and Lyft, because there's a lot of factors that determine how much money you can make. Just test it out first and then go from there. Number 3, the miles. Now, I know I showed you on my dashboard, it said, look, if you rent, you get unlimited Lyft miles, but there might be some unique clauses when it comes to that. A big thing when it comes to renting, especially renting for Lyft or Uber, is to look at the terms when it comes to the miles. Some car renting programs say, hey, you know what? You do unlimited miles, drive as much as you want, that's awesome. Other ones, though, have a cap. They say, okay, you can spend this much a week and you can't do over 100 miles in a week. Or I don't know, I'm just making it up. I don't know what it's gonna be. That's a big thing to look at, because the last thing you wanna do is, like, say, drive for a Lyft, doing Express Drive. You didn't know there's a cap, so to speak, on the miles. You, like, say, drive, I don't know, I'm just making numbers up, 200 miles when it's only supposed to be 100, not to actually spend more money because you drove an extra 100 miles. Always look at the fine print, which leads me into number 4, the fine print. I wanted to put miles on its own category, even though it's included with the fine print, because as you can imagine, if you're renting a car, the more that you drive, the more miles you put on, the more money you're gonna make. And in addition, once you start renting a car, you're already in the hole. Like, say you're like, all right, I'm gonna spend $200 a week to rent through Lyft. Well, you're already negative 200, meaning if you don't drive, you just lost $200. So you have to drive a lot just to break even. Even if, like, say, you do all these rides under that terms that I showed you on the Medium article, you're still negative 40 if you do 135 rides in a week when it comes to the rental program. Keep that in mind, and miles is a huge thing when it comes to that. You want to be able to drive as much as possible, pretty much with no limitations, but there's more to that as well. Always read the entire fine print. The miles, what's the insurance? Even though you should get rideshare insurance, what are they covering? What's the deal with the maintenance? Are they including gas? Most likely not, but they might give you some cool little bonuses as well. In addition, shop around, look around, try to figure out, okay, this one company, maybe I can do this rental program, but this other third-party rental program, the terms are way better than Lyft. There's a lot of different categories when it comes to renting, especially in this day and age. I've noticed it's become way more popular to rent a car specifically to drive for Lyft and Uber. So a lot of companies have actually just gone into this all in. A lot of companies have came about with their own rental program just for rideshare drivers. Always shop around and read the fine print, because there's a lot of options out there. Number 5, the break-even point. This is a very unique thing about Lyft Express Drive that I've touched upon a lot already in this video, but overall, what's amazing about it, like I said, the more rides that you do, the less money you're gonna spend. So in a great way, like I said, it's almost motivating, right? Hey, why not drive more, make more money, and have to spend less money? It's a win-win for you. Now, of course, like I said earlier, test the waters out, but this is a big thing I want to bring up, because a lot of times when it comes to renting a car for Uber, let's say, well, you have to determine, do I really want to spend $200? Am I gonna make enough money? Can I even drive? And another thing too is, should you use your own car or rent? Now, when it comes to Uber, a lot of the rental programs, it actually, in my opinion, makes more sense just to use your own car. Yeah, you are putting on that depreciation, the wear and tear on your own car, but when it comes to Uber, you have to spend an insane amount per week, and it's pretty much a fixed rate. When it comes to Lyft, though, like, say if you can find a program like in 2016, it will probably never come back. Maybe, maybe. Well, let's say they say, hey, you have to do 100 rides in a week and you don't have to spend any money on that rental. Well, in my opinion, you should use the rental car as opposed to your own car. I mean, hey, why not use the rental when you don't have to spend any money on that rental? It kind of incentivizes you to have to drive and to drive more, and you're not putting all that wear and tear depreciation on your own vehicle. However, every situation is different. Of course, read the fine print. But overall, I think there's something that's really unique about Lyft is that not only are your break-even points potentially lower, let's say you only have to spend $50 a month because you're doing so many rides, but also it incentivizes you to drive more. I think the Lyft Express Drive, in my opinion, if I had to do like a Lyft rental versus Uber rental kind of comparison when it comes to their own programs, the Lyft Express Drive, depending on the terms, is a way better option, a way better way to go. However, one last thing I really have to bring up on this video is part-time versus full-time. At the end of the day, the one thing that incentivizes you when it comes to Lyft Express Drive is driving more. The more rides you do, short or long, doesn't really matter, the less money you're gonna spend. However, if you're only planning on doing Lyft part-time, let's say you can only do 10 to 20 hours a week, let's say 20 hours a week, make even numbers, you're really looking at 40-ish, give or take, rides a week, which means you have to look at the terms. If I can only do 20 hours a week, 40 rides a week, really, how much money am I gonna get deducted from Express Drive, depending on your own terms, depending on what Lyft gives you? Is it worth it or not? Because let's say this, let's make numbers super easy. Let's say you drive 20 hours in a week, that equals 40 rides. And then Lyft says, hey, you know what, because you're doing 40 rides in 1 week, we'll make you only pay $100 a week, right? Which would be great. You only have to spend $100 a week when it comes to that Lyft rental. Well, if you think about it, like I said earlier, you're now negative $100 in the hole. Yeah, Lyft is giving you a discount on that rental because you're doing that many rides, but you're still negative $100. On average, though, I'd say you could spend, it depends city to city. There's a lot of different factors. I think 20 to 25 is a good gauge when it comes to how much you can make per hour. So to make numbers, again, very easy, you have to drive 5 hours. Let's say you make $20 in all those hours, make $100, you break even when it comes to your Lyft Express Drive rental. Now those extra 15 hours you're driving, when it comes to your part-time driving, because you're only doing 20, remember 5 of those goes to paying for the rental. Now those 15 are 75% of your rides now going just to profit. And again, you're not putting any depreciation, wear and tear on your own vehicle if you want to do so. Now, having your own vehicle versus renting, whole other subject for whole other video, but this is something to keep in mind because I feel like when it comes to Uber, like I said, you're way better off just probably using your own car because the Uber rates are ridiculous and you don't save any money depending on how many rides you do. When it comes to Lyft Express Drive, remember, the terms are always changing. The more rides you do, the more money you're going to save. That is something to keep in mind. If you can hit that break-even point, if you can drive enough to make a lot of money, and if you test out the waters, the Lyft Express Drive is a great way to go.